Hey rockers, welcome back to the channel, man, and I hope you are a Ramones fan, because today we're going to talk about the great Richie Ramone. This will be my last video for a little bit as I hit the road tomorrow for some shows in the Midwest, specifically Davenport, Iowa on Friday, March 14th, and Chicago, Illinois on Saturday, March 15th. I'll put the info in the description area if you're interested in where I'm performing. But I'm going to take you back in time to the year 2011 when I was a DJ at KZZE Radio. I think it was KZZE Radio in Medford, Oregon. I had a co-host at the time, and we had a band called the Bloody Mess Rock Circus. Well, long story short, I ended up getting to know Richie Ramone, kinda, through an ex of his who was a listener of the Church of Rock radio show online. And they actually wanted a couple favors of us to obtain some MP3s of some Ramone songs that Richie needed for his, for whatever, his collection or whatever. He wanted it for some reason to hear it. And we said, yeah, sure, we could probably help you out with that. And Christopher, the old co-host of the Church of Rock, he actually got that done. And then I believe her name was Tiffany. She hit us back, said, thank you so much. And we said, man, we're big Ramones fans, and we love Richie Ramone a lot. What he did with the Ramones, amazing stuff, man. Some of the best stuff the Ramones ever did was with Richie. And I'm telling you, man, from 1983 to 87, 3 albums, including, of course, the legendary Halfway to Sanity, Too Tough to Die, and Animal Boy, The Ramones Rule, and some of that stuff is some of my favorite Ramones stuff, period. So what happened was we ended up obtaining a couple of MP3s for Richie's ex. She gives them to Richie, and she says, hey, Richie says if you ever need a favor, let him know. Well, we thought about it for about 5 minutes and thought, we're going to be down in Los Angeles recording my 30th anniversary album in like 6 months or whatever it was. And we wondered, would Richie want to come down and do some, vocals on the album, some backing vocals or gang vocal kind of things? And she got back to us and said, you know what? He says he'll be there. And we were like, just completely psyched. We were like, Richie Ramone is coming to be on our album? And I got to tell you, man, Richie and I have become friends since then, and that is one stand-up human being. Yep, if there's one rocker that I gotta say that is just a good guy, a good dude, great heart, also a very introverted, deep thinker, and his mind never stops, very creative individual, complex, very kind and cool though, and that's Richie Ramone. So we went down to LA, did an album called the Bloody Mess Rock Circus Mountain Rock, which you can find on YouTube. And Richie was on about 6 of the songs. Had a great time hanging out. That's a whole nother story. It actually might be on this channel already under the video section, man. Hey, take a second and subscribe to the story, or the channel if you would. And before you listen to the story, give it a like if you would. Thumbs up. It helps the algorithm. Thank you. And we did the album. Richie did stellar in the studio. It was such a professional, so fun to work with. We got along good. He actually didn't know what to think of me at all, because going by the name Bloody Mess, that can put anybody off. And so when he first got there, I think he was a little reserved, but once he got to know me, we totally got along great. And did the album, and then flash forward a few more years, Richie plays in Medford, Oregon with his solo band, and he got a hold of me and said, hey, you want to open up the show? And I'm like, would love to. So I ended up getting a hold of the venue, got myself on the bill, and it was a stellar show with us, 100 Watt Mind, and Richie Ramone, a really killer show at Howie's on Front 2015. I was backing a band at the time called Bloody and the Backstabbers. And we did some of my originals, and then a lot of really cool covers like AC/DC and the Cramps and the Doors, all kinds of weird stuff. But anyway, we played with Richie in 2015, had a great time, hung out with Richie, was super cool. And then flash forward to the year 2022. Or no, I'm sorry. Yeah, 2022. And Richie Ramone ends up saying, hey, man, I'm going to be coming through Southern Oregon. Could you help me get a gig, or is there any leads there for any shows that pay? I said, sure, man, I'll work on it. So I found a gig for Richie at the Black Sheep Cafe in Ashland, Oregon. And great show there. You can find footage of that on YouTube as well. Richie Ramone Live. Actually, me and Richie singing Sheena is a Punk Rocker together on YouTube. That's a really cool video. From Ashland, Oregon, 2022, I believe. And then we had a great night that night. Richie was too cool. He watched my band, which was a band I put together just for that show called the Punk Rollers. Bloody and the Punk Rollers. Bloody Mess and the Punk Rollers. We had a great time that night. And that's where my story starts right now. 2 weeks later, I'm in Scotland. I'm in Edinburgh, Scotland, staying at the home of former Bay City roller Pat McGlynn and his ex-James Bond movie actress wife, Janine Andrews, right? And I'm also managing Pat at the time. We found out before I got to Scotland that Richie was going to be in Scotland. So I told Richie in Ashland, Oregon at that gig, I said, I'll see you in 2 weeks in Scotland. He's like, wow, you crazy bastard, you get around. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, we showed up at Bannerman's Whiskey Pub, and actually I wrote it down, I call it Bannerman's Rockin' Whiskey Bar in Old Town Edinburgh. I love Scotland. My legal last name is Scottish. I love Scotland. My heritage is there, and I got to visit and I had a great time there, especially down in Old Town. It's just got such a vibe, man, and a real haunted vibe. We were like going underneath the city, these tours underneath these tunnels under the city, all kinds of crazy dark stuff there, man. But Bannerman's is badass, man. It was the Not Afraid Tour 2022. It was September 18th, 2022 at Bannerman's. Don't know if you've ever been to Bannerman's in Scotland, but I would say, and it's been called the best live music venue in Edinburgh. And so if that's true, it's true. Who knows? The night of the show, it was, of course, Richie Ramone doing the drums and occasionally coming up front doing the lead vocals with the late Chris Moy on drums. Also, Claire Mistake on bass. Claire Mistake is a legend, man. She had her leggings on and her Richie Ramone shirt. This big old bright red mohawk that was all kind of tied back kind of thing, looking really cool. She looks like she should have been in the Ramones the way she plays, and it just is. I love Claire Mistake. And Ronnie Simmons on guitar. If you guys have ever seen Ronnie Simmons, you know this guy's a badass, man. He's a shredder. He looks cool. He's full of energy, and he just brings it, man. He delivers a great rock and roll show. Great tone on his guitar, and he even sang lead vocals for a couple songs, and just had a killer voice, man. Richie's third studio album came out in 2023. It's called Live to Tell. Just a freaking masterpiece. If you have not heard Richie Ramone, Live to Tell, do yourself a favor and find it on social media, music streaming platforms, and you got to hear it, man. It's just a really amazing record. I know the story's not about Richie's record, but I just had to throw that in there, man. You got to get it, man. Of course, that's his third solo album. And he also, played on Joey Ramone's solo album, And he's got a book out, Richie Ramone's book. I highly recommend all this stuff. It's called I Know Better Now. So the night of the Bannerman show in Scotland, right? We get there. We're wondering what's it going to be like to go to a Scottish punk rock concert. We get down to Old Town, and the vibe is just crazy, like buildings from like the 1700s and, like super old places. Every other place you go, there's like, this is the spot where Mr. McGregor had his ear nailed to the wall, and this is the spot this witch was burned, and everywhere you go, there's like dark, weird stuff, and it's like, I like this place, it's crazy. But the history is just nuts, man. There's actually a haunted story that happened to my wife, and I'm telling you, that's a story I'll tell on here sometime, and that was crazy. I saw it happen. A paranormal thing at a graveyard there, at a famous spot where people say it happens all the time. I'll tell you that later. So I decided to go to the show, and I invited two of my friends at the time, Pat McGlynn from the Bay City Rollers, and a guy named GOGS, a.k.a. Gordon Anthony, a fantastic musician and the guitar player for the Scottish metal band HOLOCAUST. So me and Sister Tracy from the Church of Rock and Latitude 42 radio shows, Pat McGlynn and GOGS all got on to Bannerman's, right? Me and Pat and Tracy went together down to the show, got dropped off, and we got to the bar, and we walked inside. At the outside, it's real dark, and it just looks, it looks like a punk rock club, man. We even saw a blow-up doll on the sidewalk. It was crazy. We actually used it in a video. We actually made a music video that weekend. We were there 2 weeks. You can look it up on the internet. Bloody Mess and Pat McGlynn. It's called Empty. And you can see our music video. And that's an original song written by myself and Bill Meisner. Anyway. Excuse me. We go into the bar. It's real dark. It's really what I would consider a typical Scottish old school bar would look like. A pub, I should say. Go inside, sit down. People start telling me, oh man, you got to have a drink, man. You've never been to Scotland. I'm like, I haven't had a drink since 2013. So they ended up saying, look, man, just have a taste of some like of the apple ale. There's like hardly any alcohol. You can get like half a pint. And I thought, there's no chance in hell I'm going to fall off the bandwagon of being an alcoholic again. But I think I'll have half a pint in the name of my heritage in Scotland. Or is that just me making excuses to drink something? No. I did drink a half a pint. Didn't even like the taste of it. But hey, I had a half a pint on Scottish soil. Richie Ramone was playing, and there was a band called Dig Lazarus that was opening. We got there late. We decided to just get there to see Richie. No offense if you're in the band Dig Lazarus. It's not because we didn't want to see you, but just it was a long story about timing, so we decided to get there right when Richie was going to play. The place was freaking packed. Tons of Ramones fans, all kinds of hardcore rock and roll and punk rock fans there. It was packed. The capacity at this awesome little venue was 175 people. This venue was opened first as a business back in 1786. It was like all these different places, like a paper press, a machining company, like an ink place, a leather place. It had all these weird historic businesses in the building. And then in 1979, a guy named Mr. Bannerman bought the property, and the name has stuck ever since. And Bannerman's is the name of the pub. Great place. The show started at 9:35 p.m. Me, Pat, GOGS, and Tracy filed into the room, completely packed. It was a little bit anxiety producing, but we kind of worked our way to the middle of the place. And there's video. There's video of this show that I took from Scotland, maybe 4 or 5 videos of songs, and you can find them on my other YouTube channel. It's called The Church of Rock, and that's all one word, The Church of Rock. Go there and type in Richie Ramone, Bannerman's 2022 Scotland. Boom, baby. You'll be right there to check out that fine footage that yours truly filmed. It was really cool running into Richie Ramone just a couple weeks after opening up for him in the States, you know. And by this time, I felt like a really close bond with Richie. We'd had a lot of interaction together, doing gigs, recording together. And then I'll be damned if, just real quickly, back in about a year after this, I went down to LA to record my 10th album, Dark Days Unfazed, and Richie Ramone came to the studio and hung out while we recorded that day, and it was awesome to have him there, man, just in spirit. He wasn't feeling real good physically that time, so he turned me down on my offer to do some vocals on the album, but he was totally awesome. He was given really positive, constructive criticism. At one point, my song Rock and Roll Therapy, he said, this sounds like Mott the Hoople without the horns. And I'm like, thank you, man. What a compliment, you know. Mott the Hoople, right? So Richie Ramone, hats off to you, brother. The show, man, was kick-ass. I gotta tell you, man. Bannerman's has got this ceiling that's like an arch, kind of round, sort of archish shape. It's all bricks, man. It looks like it was made in 1700s. And it was. And it's all bricks and real hardcore and just real, you got this like concrete-ish floor or whatever it is, this hard ceiling and this whole dark, hard, old, dark vibe, but a good vibe, but just really intense, very Scottish. And the big Richie Ramone banner was on the back. The big stage wasn't big, but it wasn't small. Just perfect for a punk rock show. 175 people packed. To me, that's awesome. That's a great show, you know what I'm saying? And the show started off with the guys. I'm not sure exactly what song they started out with, but I do know a lot of the songs that were played that night, and I got them on a piece of paper right here, man. They did I Want to Live, of course. I Want to Be Sedated. The whole crowd is singing along. Everyone's pumping their fists in the air. It was, you know, probably a big treat for the UK folks to get to see members of the Ramones play because, gosh, I mean, the Ramones are legends, right? And so was Richie Ramone. Blitzkrieg Bop was on the set list. I Believe in Miracles they played. And then the great guitarist and, well, vocalist Ronnie Simmons not only played shredder guitar, but he did lead vocals on a couple of songs, man, including Animal Boy and Warthog, which Dee Dee Ramone had previously sang. And man, stellar job. Real gravelly voice. Just a great, really amazing presence. Kind of flamboyant, but just energetic and could back it up with the talent. Ronnie Simmons, hats off to you too, mate. Also, they did Sheena is a Punk Rocker, and the whole place was singing along. At one point, Richie put the microphone in the audience. He's like, come on, everyone. And everyone just took it over, man. It was really cool. They did I Know Better, Pretty Poison, which is awesome. Chasing the Night, which I actually got a story about. I think I'll save it for later, but I guess I could tell it real quick. I did a version of Chasing the Night when I was in Scotland for my new album, Dark Days Unfazed. I covered that song, but my original idea was to have a Bay City Roller and a member of the Ramones record that with me. And to have a Bay City Roller and a Ramone on a record together has always been like a dream of mine to have happen. I thought, well, it's the best I can do. I'm going to get Richie and Pat. They both said yes to the idea. GOGS, Gordon Anthony, was going to record us, right? So he lays down the music, and it's just beautiful, right? Drums, guitar, bass. And then the day came to do it. It was all ready to go. It was the day after the Bannerman show. And Richie says, bloody. He calls me at Pat McGlynn's, or he calls my cell phone. I'm at Pat McGlynn's house. And he says, bloody. And he's completely fried. The guy had really bad, what do you call it, when you fly on an airplane and you get completely fried from jet lag. Jet lag is no joke, dude. It sucks. When I went to Scotland, it took me 3 days to feel normal. Richie flies in and does the gig like immediately. And he's like, dude, whew. I'm like, man, I feel you. Well, he called the next day and he goes, bro, I can't, man. I just can't. I can't. I don't have it in me. I'm exhausted. But I promise you, if you guys record it, I'll do my vocal later and we'll send it over, do the email thing and all that. And I said, dude, I can't blame you and I understand. So I said, hey, Pat, me and you go do it. And then Pat decided to bow out. So long story short, I took my ass up to GOGS' studio and I did it on my own. And you can find that on my other YouTube channel and any music streaming platform via Ponk Media. And that's Dark Days Unfazed. And the song is called Chasing the Night by Bloody F Mess. It's my Ramones cover. And all those vocals were done in one take. No edits whatsoever. No auto-tune. So the band continued playing. They did Somebody Put Something in My Drink, which is one of the coolest Ramones songs ever. And guess who wrote that song? Richie Ramone. That's right. They did Howlin' at the Moon, I'm Not Ready, Durango 95, I Don't Care, one of my very favorites. Who Stole My Wig, etc. The whole crowd just ate Richie Ramone up. His voice was sounding good. His spirits were good. He was really up there and seemingly energetic, even at a couple times jumping up off the floor and like into the air kind of thing, which I'd never seen Richie do. He was like super, super happy to be in Scotland, and hell, who wouldn't be? I'd kill to play in Scotland. Hey, if you have a Scottish band and you can fly me over, let's do a gig. Anyway, guys, after the show, Richie, of course, took a little break for like 5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. He's one of those animals, man. He's a road warrior and a legend. He basically came over to the tables, and there was a lot of fans wanting to buy merch and meet him and take pictures. And he said, Bloody, I want to meet you and your friends, but can you wait till it's afterwards so I can give you a little more time instead of having to say hi and bye? So I said, sure. Of course, I'm not going to name names, but somebody later had their ego bruised saying, wow, Richie Ramone ignored us. He didn't even want to talk to us. I go, Richie was trying to give us more time and wanted us to wait till he did his regular thing and get these, fans what they wanted so we'd have time to hang out for a few and talk and, shoot the shit for a minute, man. But my friend got egotistically his ego bruised. I'm like, you got it wrong. That's not how Richie is, dude. And if he's watching this, Richie's going, you got it right, Bloody, right? So he came over, and I got a legendary photo that I just posted yesterday. If you go to the community section on this channel here and type in to go to the community section, I post a photo about every 24 hours, and it's always an interesting rock photo with somebody cool or whatever. And it's a picture of me with Richie that night with Pat McGlynn from the Bay City Rollers and GOGS from HOLOCAUST. It's a legendary picture. I was proud to be with all those legendary, super talented people. Yep, absolutely, man. It was in great company I was in. All I can say is that I'm happy to have had the experience. I hope you will go and check out my Empty video with Pat McGlynn and Bloody Mess, Empty. I hope you'll check out Chasing the Night by Bloody F Mess, and maybe even the videos of Richie in Ashland, Oregon 2022, and at Bannermans in 2022. All that can be found at the Church of Rock channel. Thanks again to Ponk Media. Thanks to my brother Mark Robinson, and I want you guys to go subscribe to Ponk Media, P-O-N-K Media, or I don't know what I'll do. Anyway, cheers, man. I'll be back in a week or I might actually live stream some of the opening acts for the shows I have coming up in Iowa and in Chicago. That's what I might do. It depends, man. Depends how the crowd is. If it's real lively, people are talking to me, we're having fun, I'm not going to be on my phone. But otherwise, I might live stream. Who knows? Thanks for making it to 20 minutes of a blabbering idiot. Richie Ramone, all the respect in the world. All you guys who have subscribed, thank you so freaking much. From the bottom of my black little heart, I bid you fondue. Cheers. What does that mean? Fondue? Fondue? All right, man. Rock and roll. I'm out.